waiting for that connection to my boy. Look at that beautiful man.
How are you, sir?
I'm doing better now that I see your beautiful face. It's been too long.
Is the audio okay?
Yeah, I can hear you just fine. Hear me all right?
Yeah.
Rock and roll. So this is fun. I'm glad we're doing this. We kind of let people file in for a second, but for those that are here, welcome to a live version of the Steel and Style podcast. We thought this would be a fun way. We talked about it in our last episode where we said, hey, I think it'd be fun to do some Q&A stuff with folks. And, you know, we're still building that base over there. So, you know, if you haven't seen the podcast yet, please head over to YouTube, Steel and Style. Can't miss it. We've got a couple episodes up already. But for your entertainment pleasure this evening, for folks that have followed us a long time on Instagram, on both of our accounts, we thought it'd be nice to do a dedicated episode here that hopefully, providing the IG gods are willing, will also be uploaded to our channels once it's all done. But yeah, so welcome to Steel and Style. This is our podcast. Eli, you want to kind of explain to the folks that are here what this is all meant to be for folks?
Yeah, so welcome to Steel and Style. As Caleb said, we appreciate you joining us on the live episode. We may do these once a month. I don't know. There might be some room in here for this to be something that, gets done again. Just so you know, again, we are recording this. We're hopefully going to be able to record this for the main Steel and Style podcast. So if you miss it, you're going to be able to watch it again, kind of. And we're going to be repeating the questions that you say just in case, somebody's listening to it on Spotify. You'll be able to still understand what we're saying, where we're going with that.
Yeah.
With that out of the way, of course, for the Spotify and for YouTube, if we do that by chance, just want to quickly say, huge shout out, Hold Up Displays behind us, yeah, and guns.com. Of course, guns.com is our go-to. You and I spend way too much time on guns.com looking at the certified news section. So with that out of the way, we're going to kind of open the floor to everyone else and maybe throw around some topics back and forth. If you have a question that's specific to either Caleb or I, kind of put in parentheses or something that this is for one of us. If not, we'll kind of just field them as we feel fit. And we'll just go with here. Welcome again to Steel and Style live episode. Let's get into it. And if you know anything about my lives, right? They have the ability. See, Steel and Style. Usually Caleb and I are filming pretty late at night.
Oh yeah.
I'm pretty tired and pretty mellowed out. Okay. You get me about the 8 to 9 o'clock area, and I'm still jazzed up. I just went to the gym, brother. I'm telling you, this could get a lot of. It's going
to be dangerous. Yeah, you've got a Commander Colt helmet staring your face on right now while you work. You got a portrait of JMB standing there. It's a damn good evening.
That's right. So here we go. I'm trying to catch them as they come.
I think it's
Caleb. I know they're going
to be asking what watches that we've been rocking tonight. So yeah. I'll start off. This evening I am wearing one of my favorites. It is the Gruen Precision. It's my manual wind homage to Sean Connery's personal watch. We don't know what his personal watch is. We just assume. But wearing it specifically today because today marks 60 years of Goldfinger. It's the 60th anniversary of one of the best Bond films, one that really solidified the Bond formula and everything else. And what's really cool about it, too, is that Connery wore his personal watch pretty heavily in that movie. So we see it in a handful of sequences. So while the NATO strap, which I was wearing earlier today as well from Zulu Alpha, is another thing people are familiar with from those films, his personal watch, it's what I bought for my wedding. It's one of my favorites. So there you go. I know what you're wearing, but I want to hear you talk about why you love it so much because it makes me so happy seeing that on your wrist.
Yeah. So, the Rolexes I've just got have become kind of my weekend watches, right? But my everyday watch, and I actually, dude, I hit a hellacious arm day and chest day wearing it. I never took it off.
Yeah.
And so this is my R Watchco, sorry for the lie, R Watchco Pepsi Magnum tribute, okay?
Yeah.
And let's be honest, okay? Magnum P.I., greatest TV show of all time. Tom Selleck, one of the greatest actors of all time.
Coolest dudes ever. The dude had a Bentley blower in the 90s. He was Magnum PI. Gun collector, carries a custom Colt. I mean, the guy's just a certified badass in real life and in the short shorts and mustache.
Well, and I love Magnum, if it wasn't obvious enough. Yeah. But anyways, this is the Our Watch Co., like I said, the Magnum tribute. So this is essentially supposed to be a reproduction or a replica or a tribute, whatever you want to call it, to the Pepsi Rolex GMT.
Yeah.
Of course, that watch is hellaciously expensive.
Yeah, an original one is nightmarish.
Right, and so this is an extremely durable watch. Like I said, I literally went and lifted. I was doing a bench press day and some auxiliary arm workout, and never took the watch off. I love it. It's probably, I'm going to go out on a limb, and I think that if you take just the name Rolex out of the equation, this is probably my favorite watch I own. And I have to thank you a lot for that. You obviously, hooked me up with the guys there at Our Watch Co. And speaking of Our Watch Co., y'all are going to listen, okay? I don't mean to be telling tales out of school, but y'all going to want to be paying attention to Our Watch Co. here in the future. We got a couple of projects coming down the line, or they have a couple of projects coming down the line that are going to be pretty hot, pretty incredible.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
So, with that out of the way, yeah, that's the watch I'm wearing.
It's something to be said about you and I being together professionally for just a couple weeks and already cooking up some crazy schemes. It makes me very, very happy.
Yeah, absolutely. So I know, watches are one of those things that I think you are definitely more into watches than I am. I'm getting into watches. Yeah. But it's definitely something I feel that if I'm going to be someone that talks about, oh, you need to have a badass, nice, beautiful custom 1911, it's kind of comes with the territory, Yeah,
good watch, good gun. They just go together.
Pardon my French, but fuck smartwatches, okay?
Yeah, I see the question about digital watches in general. I don't, there are some digital watches that I think are cool. Like the quartz movement era of them, like there's some really interesting ones. Like Roger Moore wears a cool digital watch. In Live and Let Die, it's a Hamilton. It was actually Pulsar back in the day, but it's this weird, it looks like an alarm clock. It's so 70s. Big square. I sent you a photo of it the other day. Big square stainless steel box with a red screen with a digital number face on it. It's so random. It's so goofy looking. Hamilton makes it now still. I would totally wear one just because it connects to that like old school Bond stuff. So that makes me super cool. Is the Beretta 92A1 an okay substitute if I don't have a 1911? I appreciate the yet on that. The only time that yet makes sense, and I'll speak for Eli here, is if you're currently waiting for an Alchemy on custom order.
I mean, here's the deal, okay? The Beretta 92, I'm going to go ahead and say it. I'm going to make some people mad. I'm going to be a little, controversial, for the first time in my life. The Beretta 92 has caused so many damn problems in the world of handguns. It's not even funny. Let's talk about it real quick. Beretta 92 replaces, because we have to listen to NATO. When did we start listening to NATO? Have you heard of 762x51? Okay, we don't listen to NATO. NATO listens to us. But all of a sudden, we have to
pay their bills and we listen to their ideas.
Right. We got to go in there and whoop ass for them. Okay, and you want us to use some little girly 9mm pistol with a shitty trigger made by some, pizza slinging mafia members? I don't know about it. Listen. The Beretta 92 replaces the 1911. What happens after that? The 10mm shit. Now, why is 10mm connected to the Beretta 92? Well, think about this. Miami-Dade shootout. FBI goes, we need a bigger caliber. It's kind of like we have a bigger caliber right here. What's this? 45. We got already. We can't go to Congress because of these stupid European Italian pistols we just bought that are in 9mm. We can't go to Congress and say, you know what, guys, actually the 45, we kind of want to keep that because we just spent millions and millions, that's a Rock reference for you if you don't watch WWE, of dollars trying to replace the 1911. Here we are going back to the 1911. So anyways, the Beretta 92 has spurred this giant trend of being wrong when we could have just been right and stuck with God's gift to handguns, the 1911. I'm telling you, it is one of the great tragedies of the American handgunner, the Beretta 92. I used to be a fan, had one, tried to like it. Guess what? Browning came to me in a dream. He said, Eli, that gun has ruined It began the slippery slope, my friend, to introduce. And guess what? Guess what happened? Ho, ho, ho. Guess what happens when all of a sudden this market opens up with what, a 10 millimeter? Oh, but we can't qualify with 10 millimeters, so we got to do a 40 cal. Smith & Wesson, God bless their souls, third gen Smiths couldn't handle it. Guess who came in? The snake in the grass and kicked us out of the Garden of Eden. Glock.
Gaston
Damn
Glock
right.
stuck right in, man.
In a roundabout way. Okay.
You're telling me this is the piece of steel that introduced polymer to the world?
That's right. The Beretta 92 is the reason we have the cancer that is the Glock series of handguns, and not
this
everybody.
This is Adam right here is what you're telling me.
Right.
You know,
that's what I'm
bit from the fruit of the apple, threw us right out. His children.
That ain't Adam. That's Eve. Okay.
This is Eve.
That's right. So that's how I feel about the Beretta 92. And honestly, you might think that's theatric. You go look up the history, follow the dots, connect them, okay? Put your Indiana Jones hat on. You're going to find out I'm telling the truth. You know, Big Polymer doesn't want me to tell the truth, but here I am telling it.
Hasn't slowed you down yet, despite anything. They can't silence you. That's the most impressive part of it. Not for lack of trying.
That's right. So I don't know what we've missed in there.
Yeah, I've been trying to keep up. I saw something. I can answer one while you start scrolling to see if there's another one you want to catch, asking about what modern Walther bond would carry aside from the PPK. And the answer I've got for that always would be, first of all, the PPK is not going anywhere. It's a cool-ass gun. It should always be in the hands of James Bond, full stop. Secondly, if he was going to upgrade, it'd be a full-size companion to the PPK, which is what Fleming did. It was in 1911 in conjunction with his 418. If we were going to do a Walther, across the board, my rule of thumb is his full-size companion has to be a steel frame pistol, which means I really, really, really need it to be either the Q4 SF, which I think is one of the coolest guns Walther's made in the last 30 years, or the new PDP SF series. But personally, I really like the Q4 SF. It's got the kind of softer lines to it. I talk about new Walthers in the same like aesthetic as like a like the Batmobile. If you watch those movies, the PPQ series, which is the Q4 era, is a lot like Michael Keaton's bitchin' lines, super clean, speed, and the PDP is super rugged, aggressive. It's like the Tumbler. It gets the job done, but it just doesn't quite have the same aesthetics. So for me, I'm always in the PPQ or the Q4 SF camp. I would still be happy if there was a Walther in the holster, though.
Well, I'm going to continue that gentleman's question.
Did I see one about the high power, whether or not it was a I saw, how does he feel about the high power? Do you guys got 15, 20 minutes?
Well, yeah, so high powers, right?
I'm just going to keep pulling shit off the wall.
Right. Well, you have to, because I can't pull a high power off the wall because I don't.
It's a 40 caliber too.
Okay, here it is, ladies and gentlemen. Browning high power. The high power could have been something special, but you know why it's not? Europeans got involved. You'll find a trend, okay, of Europeans becoming involved and things ending up badly. It's kind of like a painter from Austria gets kicked out of art school, and all of a sudden we got millions and millions of deaths in World War II. So here's the deal. The Europeans got involved with the Browning high power, and they really kind of screwed it over. Why? Because Europeans don't know shit about handguns. Okay, that's just what it comes down to. Okay, you might think, oh, my HK, this, that, and the other.
There's a reason why half of James Bond's guns are built in the United States.
Yeah.
Like, the vast majority of the cool shit in the European action heroes' hands are American produced.
Well, and here's the thing: is James Bond would have been a whole lot cooler if he'd just been American from the start. But the problem is, the French got involved, which, Jesus, the French haven't done anything for guns since smokeless powder, and even that, I think we'll just call it a gift of God. If France knew what was good for them, they'd resurrect Napoleon and get a set of balls. So anyways, the French got involved. They wanted a magazine disconnect safety, garbage. They wanted all this other stuff. And the Belgians, of course, oh yeah, we'll do it. Well, guess what? French never even formally.
You mean they surrendered before the contract?
Right. They never even really formally adopted the gun. So here we are with a hamstrung, Browning design. And keep in mind, he died 9 years before that
which means
came out.
Democratic hell also killed it, right?
Right. So, in my opinion, the Browning high power, the FNP 35, if you will, is only partly a Browning gun. Now, I get it, right? Every time Browning took a Winchester design to Winchester, they tweaked on it here and there. Let's be honest, the 1911 is a amalgamation of Browning, the Cavalry Board, and Colt. So there's a lot of stuff going there. But the Europeans just really didn't do the high power any service. Let's be honest, for its weight, it's got pretty snappy recoil. Okay. The ergonomics aren't even. The gun doesn't feel in the hand as good as it should. A 9mm 1911 will be leaps and bounds more pleasurable experience than a Browning high power.
Said when a Quantico high cap, which is a 70 series with a double grip module, double stack 9mm style with classic machining otherwise is immaculately better. And but you know what, to that last comment's point about the JMB rolling in his grave, the good news is when the CIA were issued the high power, I have it on good authority from some former CIA dudes that they deleted the magazine disconnect to make it a superior pistol. Because why would you hemorrhage that?
Well, and that's, in my opinion, if you're going to have a Browning high power, that's the first thing that needs to happen, is that you need to pull that magazine disconnect out. It's just extra shit getting in the way. Even then, the trigger job isn't fantastic, but it's leaps and bounds better than what it was prior to, for sure. And there's just an excessive amount of parts for that magazine disconnect. It's funny. There's actually verbiage in the original 1911 patent around a magazine disconnect. I think the Archangel Michael stepped in and probably had something to do with that, with telling them to go away from that business, because that really would have made the 1911 suck. But
at least if the compromise is having a grip safety, I'll take it.
Yeah, well, and right, and you can pin a grip safety and it's done. And let's be honest, modern grip safeties, I've actually maybe on only one or two occasions ever drawn a gun and not had the grip safety depressed, and both times were on older guns that did not have the what we call the memory bump.
Yeah, the memory bump across it. Yeah.
Which, let's be honest, this right here is the peak 1911. The Novak with the answer.
Yeah, the answer's pretty rad.
See, I'm kind of.
It's pretty cool.
That answer, which obviously deletes the grip safety there, is kind of the peak 1911 for sure.
Yeah, it's super rad, and I think it kind of celebrates what it fully evolves what it could have been. What was learned through application of things that were required to be added because of, like you said, the Cavalry Board and everyone else insisting on making modifications to an existing design. So those needed to get adjusted further. Yes, you should buy a 1903. The 1903 is insanely cool. It is high on my list. Not only is it a super cool pocket gun that Eli has far too many of, for me not to have any, there needs to be some sort of balance here or the ecosystem will collapse. So I need to make sure I get myself one here pretty soon. But, it's got some super cool real-world espionage bona fides. Like the OSS and the SOE rocked the hell out of those pistols.
Yes. That I believe was the only contracts during the war for those guns, besides general officer guns. But the OSS and they like the 32, especially going into Europe, who obviously there was a plethora of 32 there. Even by World War II, 32 is still a mainstream caliber in Europe, or really in the U.S. too, even by World War II. Mm-hmm. So the 1903 being an extremely elegant gun, it's all business. It's all meant to be concealed. Yeah. Every aspect of that gun is meant to be concealed. So. As you mentioned,
it's impressive too. Like the fact that you're meant to be able to run it with the safety on round and chamber, which we've talked about so much before, was something that was not expected of the military because we didn't expect them to be competent enough to do that. And in fact, the sidearm was a secondary, so it was meant to remain unloaded until necessary. Whereas this, to me, it's truly the 20th century American fighting handgun, at least the precursor to the 1911 truly becoming that pistol, because it was designed as the pocket automatic for the average citizen to carry for self-defense purposes.
Yes, and the
It's pretty
story,
cool.
like, here's the deal about Browning. Browning loved to refine his designs to
Specifically in church.
Yes, well, the Latter-day Saints don't want you to talk about that, but he loved to have designs that do multiple things. If we look at the 1911, for example, the slide stop or slide release, you really are. That's a controversial thing in 1911. It's stupid.
Using those words, it could get you.
But people want to act like it's one or the other. It actually in the patent is references both.
Yeah,
But
just remember, kids, only assist deals in absolutes.
Yeah, well, right. This not only stops the slide or it locks it open on a empty magazine, and it not only allows the user to drop the slide, thus loading the chamber, it also holds the barrel and essentially the slide onto the frame.
Yeah.
And so when you take that concept, Browning had a internal hammer gun with the pocket hammerless. It's not a hammerless pistol.
It's just
it is an internal hammer gun. And he thought to himself, well, it probably needs to have a thumb safety. That's definitely something that probably needs to be on the table here. But I also want people to know, because this was a big point of contention. We're so I don't want to use the word jaded, but a lot of folks don't think about having to know if their gun's cocked.
Sure.
In the striker fired world, yes, you have striker indicators, but like a lot of folks, to my knowledge, other than the trigger set, you won't know like just immediately if a Glock's cocked. Is that
some of them
incorrect?
Have loaded chamber indicators on the side of the slide that you can tactically feel.
Sure.
Like
but it's not.
But it's not something that's like for in the instance of the 1903 where you can just lightly touch that safety and immediately
you don't immediately see and say, okay, yeah, that's obviously that's cocked. So he designed the safety to not only be a safety, but he wanted to be a hammer indicator to indicate that the hammer was cocked.
Mm-hmm.
Because of this, he introduced the concept. I mean, the 1903 is the genesis of cocked and locked. Those exact words are used in the patent. So, it's a gun that really was ahead of its time. We can say what we want about the heel magazine release, and I'll tell you, as someone who owns a gun that's been modified for a push-button magazine release, when you think about how those guns were employed, mm-hmm. and gun culture of the time, which, let's be honest, holsters, optional back then. Holsters are not optional these days. But back then, your trouser pocket, your jacket pocket, whatever.
Your waist, just ripping it in the waistband. Yeah.
So, you look at that design and you think, oh, it makes sense, because here's the problem with a push button. You stick it in your pocket, you put your hand in your pocket, you put other things in your pocket, or you're just walking around casually, bump into something. You could eject the magazine ever so slightly. You shoot the first round, the mag's not seated, so you're not going to load the next round. Click, you're sitting there wondering, what the hell's going on with your dick in your hands. With a heel magazine release, I'm going to be honest, it ain't coming out. Okay.
No, it's not a clean reload, but it makes sense, and I think that's the same concept for. It's funny, like two of our favorite pocket pistols have very similar functions, right? Because we've got a striker prime indicator on the back of the Beretta 418. We've got a slide lock that also operates as the manual safety, and we've got a heel magazine release, all for the same purpose as you meant, where it streamlines the design because it reduces the amount of moving parts and pieces on the outside of the frame, which reduces the size of the frame overall because you don't need the real estate to put all those things on there. And then, as you mentioned, for a gun that's meant to live in a pocket, you're not worried about losing anything. The only thing to worry about with the grips off here is ruining the magazine and fouling the gun, which is very likely, but I digress. It looks badass, so I'm going to keep it this way for Fleming.
Well, and I think, again, we often use modern lenses, and this is something that I've really tried hard to help people understand when they talk about 1911s, for instance. Mm-hmm. We use this modern lens of, okay, well, this is a fighting handgun. I'm going to need extra magazines. I've got to do a quick, sub-second, reload. That was not how gun fighting was in the early 1900s. That's not the mentality or the thought process that gunfighting had.
That wasn't even into the 80s. I mean, talk about the HKP7. That gun was storied in all sorts of like law enforcement data that said the average gunfight was 8 rounds or less. Therefore, when they built that gas retarded blowback system that overheated the bottom of the frame, they were like, you know what? That's a sacrifice we're willing to make to mitigate recoil, because sure, it overheats after 5 or 6 magazines, but you're not going to shoot 5 or 6 magazines in a combat situation.
Which we know in the and I think too, it comes down to the advancement of arms in general that has escalated, you know, what a typical gunfight is these days. You know, when the other guy probably has a 6-shot revolver, you're sitting pretty happy with the 7-shot, you know, 32 automatic. But in
but he's got
as modern
5 rounds of 32 Smith & Wesson long.
Oh. Yes, absolutely. So, you know, it's one of those things where when we become critical of the past, of how guns were designed, and I'll be honest with you, there are some guns designed back then where I think even in that space, that's a dumb idea. But, you know, when we think about stuff in that lens, we have to remember the time period. I think a good example of that is the PPK.
Absolutely. It's a really cool gun for the era. And, you know, we've talked about it a lot, but the reason why I love it so much for the era and the design is this was a super revolutionary pistol for everything that we were just talking about with striker fired palm pistols and stuff. Because back in the day, I'll show you guys, because I don't think many people have seen what these strikers look like. I'll pull this Beretta apart real quick. You bump into this thing a little too hard, and you're going to be discharging your pistol.
Oh gosh.
So that was something that was happening. People were NDing their striker-fired little pistols, like the Colt 1908s and stuff like that. That is the striker assembly. Do you see that? That is a spring with a freaking striker just sitting right there. So, you know, there's no safety. There's no passive safety associated with that. A good enough bump, in theory, could discharge that. That's why when I carry that, I honestly don't ever carry with a round in the chamber, because, you know, that is, first of all, it's a super deep carry gun. So it's really meant to draw, rack, and then go. It's not meant for immediate usage, right? It's more about concealing it than anything else. But the PPK was designed in the 30s specifically to remedy all the concerns of self-defense pistols not being safe. It might have gone a little overkill because you've got a double single action trigger, which had never been done on a semi-automatic pistol before. This is the first pistol to have a double semi-automatic. In addition, it's the first pistol to ever have a slide mounted, or a decocker in general. So you've got a decocker that also doubles as a manual safety. You also have a double single action trigger. So you've got passive safeties and active safeties all wrapped into a singular package. It's a pretty exceptional pistol for what it was meant to be, right? It was designed as a safe action pistol at a time where pistols were not safe.
Well, and I think you kind of, you glossed over it, but we have to understand, and here, listen, you know, you're catching me on a good night, or I would just be ragging on that gun. But I'm trying to be nice. You know?
You're being very charitable right now. You brought it up in a pleasant way, and I'm very proud of you for that.
But you have to think about that gun was designed in the 1930s. Yeah. Okay. And speaking of the Bond connection, with obviously, shameless plug for you, the Bond book, head stamp, you know, Kickstarter is alive. You should definitely check it out, because Caleb's a nerd in all the best ways, and that translates to producing one of, I would say, and I'm not even really that, you know, crazy of a Bond guy, but I would say that book will be one of the finest firearms books to ever be printed.
Appreciate that, buddy.
So I'm very excited for you. But we have to keep in mind that, you know, the Walther PPK coming out into the 30s, you know, that's pretty revolutionary for the time. And again, talking about Bond, we're talking about now we have a post-war guy, okay, who's employing this after all, you know, after he kind of went through a couple of guns there at the beginning. But when things, let's say, quote unquote, get more serious, that is the gun he employs.
Yeah. Yeah. He moves from the 25 to this, and then in the books, which I think is the coolest thing. Fleming makes this error, right? The Jeffrey Boothroyd writes them, and they have all this conversation about the right gun. Fleming flubs the ball. He accidentally puts 2 carry guns together instead of getting a long-barreled 357 Magnum in addition to the PPK. So when he gets to the next book, when he gets to Goldfinger, there's this epic chapter, which is like, I think it's called Thoughts in a DB3. So James Bond, he's told his Bentley is no longer allowed to be driven. It's had its day as it was, and he's given an Aston Martin DB3 instead. And what is in a secret compartment in there? His long-barreled 45. So canonically speaking, James Bond rocks a Walther PPK and a 45 in a freaking Aston Martin. Can you get any better than that?
Well, and speaking of 45, somebody did mention there, bring back double stack 45. Well, obviously you don't follow the Alchemy Custom Weaponry channel, because guess what? Double stack 45 is indeed back. Your free testosterone shot. Okay, listen, I'm not saying the gun's free, but I'm saying that the amount of testosterone that's going to enter your body having a double stack 45 should be something we charge for, but we don't. Yeah, so you're welcome.
Honestly, yeah. I'm waiting for you guys to include a brush for your chest hair after the fact. The immediate sprouting, the concern. You should really have a warning about the TSA thing, because I'm getting real tired of that. No one warns you of the consequences of carrying one of your guns until you're getting patted down in 6 different airports in the span of a week.
So I'm trying to go back and see if we've missed, because I've definitely been running my yapper there.
It's a dangerous proposition putting this in a room together.
I'm kind of just spouting. I'm spouting, whatever comes to mind. You've got me off on many.
Well, I'll let you dig, and I'll just shill really fast. I want to thank you, first of all, for talking about the book really quick. That really, really means a lot. But I'm really excited to share this live. We just passed the $300,000 mark on the Kickstarter, which is super rad. It unlocked a new stretch goal. So now there's going to be a custom ribbon with each one of the books that'll be included. So, different bookmark ribbon. One of them is the Union Jack going all the way down. Another one is the Bond coat of arms that we stylized for our book. And then one of my favorites has to be it's a gold ribbon with the PPK alternating all the way down, which is super rad. And it unlocks at the $400,000 mark now is the next big goal that puts work in for me, is an additional piece of material. The first one is a stretch goal, which is a profile on one of the coolest special operators in American history, Billy Waugh. Cannot recommend learning about Billy Waugh, or Batman as he went by, enough. This dude was in special operations from Vietnam to being one of the first operators on the ground in Iraq. There is a photo of him in his 80s, like rocking operator kit overseas. The dude is a legend. I'm really excited to cover him in the book if we hit that number. So, put me to work.
So, not to pull you off that.
No, please.
But I do see we have some stuff coming through here.
Yeah, I see some stuff coming in finally, now that I've been rambling.
I'm not going to talk about the Browning High Power anymore. But somebody asked, send a Colt to Novak or get an Alchemy. So here's the deal. Okay, you have to realize, and I'm not going to really tell you one way or another. I mean, obviously I work for Alchemy. I think you should get an Alchemy. But I have plenty of, built Colts. And that's one of my many, many things there. I love a Colt that's been customized. That's a special, has a special place in my heart.
I mean, that's your Novak Colt, right?
Yeah.
Like that was your gift to yourself for graduation.
Well, I've got a Nighthawk Colt here. That's right, the graduation gun. I've got Ken's old Novak. Yeah. I've got the Ken's Pegram gun. I've got 2 Wilson LE comps. I've got Swenson. All these Colt built guns. But here's the thing you have to understand. The thing that people don't tell you about sending a Colt or a Springfield or whatever off to a custom shop is that you have to build the gun up to a point where you can then build it. What I mean is the builder is going to have to try to correct everything that Colt probably should have done, or just the way they mass produce guns, right?
The shake, the rattle.
Right.
Yeah.
You to get you to a point where you're going to be really happy, they have to fix all that. Then they can build on the gun and improve the gun. The problem with like doing stuff with like Novak nowadays is they have an extremely limited options list, usually based on their models that they offer. And one of the things that they're actually missing right now that I really wish they would do, because I'd send a gun to them, is frame to slide fit. And I'm going to tell you, getting modern Colts, that's damn near going to happen. You're going to have a frame to slide fit. So. With Alchemy, of course, everything's starting from oversized parts, American-made parts, and then hand fit together. So we're kind of cutting out that whole, hey, we got to fix the gun first, then we build it. We're just building the gun.
Yeah.
I think that produces a overall better product. That isn't to say that a built Colt is not a good product at all. Again, you're talking to a man that's got many of them.
It's a lot of
and there
Colts on your wall.
Yeah, and there is something special about an American having a custom Colt. I'll never deny that. Okay, and in fact, to me, it's something that should happen. You should have a custom Colt, but for something that you want to carry every single day, that you really want to see as a pinnacle of the modern tribute to a classic design, a semi-custom is going to probably be the way to go. Or, of course, a full custom where like, for instance, Shalom Performance, where he's kind of doing the same thing as Alchemy is, but spending, double the time on it. Of course, the price reflects that, you're getting into down payments on houses sometimes with certain builders, right? So,
well, I think that's why Alchemy really is strong too, because, to totally shill in advance for you guys as well is for the cost that you'll have into a base Colt, getting fixed and then getting it to a level of where you might be satisfied. If you're trying to get into the semi-custom world, I like Alchemy a lot because of the options available, because a lot of the other semi-custom is a very difficult thing to define in the market anymore, because you guys are doing things that not a lot of people do, which is giving people a very easy to access options list. You can order it online and make all the selections without any consternation or calling on the phone or this, that, or the other. Makes it pretty easy. But then also the final price point of what you price out is it's what you want, one, and two, it comes that way. And it comes at a price point that isn't going to kill you. And I think that's, to me, as someone who is as you know, is price sensitive, is
you got a rabbi in your family somewhere.
So, for me, it means a lot to be able to functionally do that. So it gets me into the platform pretty well. Smart ass.
These two questions kind of get looped together here. Favorite single stack 1911 custom shop, and then also who would you recommend to customize your Colt 1911? So I want to kind of give you two answers for those two questions. My favorite one-man shop, I got two, right? And these are dudes who are, I truly believe, are at the pinnacle of the game, okay? And they also are extremely close friends of mine. Both of them are extremely close to me. I'd do anything for either of them, but that's going to be Rob Sholin at Sholin Performance, and it's also going to be Jason Burton at Heirloom Precision. And I've got two guns actually with Sholin, Pops as I call them. So I've got two guns there, two Colts. One's a 1952 government model, the other one's a 76 Commander. And then there are possibly rumblings of a gun going to Mr. Burton's. That, of course, will be something that I think will be not this year, because this year's been pretty tough financially, seeing all these guns I've been buying. But it is something that I'm planning out there. So,
well, you are dual-wielding Wilson Combat AccuComps these days.
Yeah,
so.
Getting two LE comps in the same year is pretty tough. But that's, and a Swinson. And a Swinson.
A Vietnam era used in the war Swinson.
Yeah. And a Novak. I bought the Novak this year, too.
I remember,
so anyways.
I remember in February you told me you weren't buying any more guns.
Yeah.
I remember a phone call that you said that. And here we are.
Yeah, that didn't go to plan. Excuse me. If I order an Alchemy, will I get a call from the Duck? Yes. The only time that you don't get a call from me, if you buy through your dealer, Your dealer, in my opinion, your relationship with the dealer is paramount there. And I don't want to try to get in the way of that. Your dealer and you are obviously going to have that relationship, and I feel that I want to support that. The other reason I may not call you is if I'm working late or really early, I'm not going to give you a call. If I'm putting in your order and it just so happens I'm working the weekends or working late, or sometimes I've worked, I've woke up at 3 o'clock in the morning and start working, so I'd have the rest of the day for filming or whatever. I won't call you, but I will send you a personal email and ask you if you want a time to call. So I always give the option of, if you do want to get on the horn with me, we can schedule that. But if I'm working a normal business day, which is rare, I do typically give people a holler, there as well. And sometimes I'll be working in the morning and see like somebody in Arizona bought a gun and it's 8 o'clock in the morning. I'm not going to give you a call. That's not really,
brushing your teeth and ordering a custom 1911. We'll leave you be.
Yeah. Yeah. So I won't bother you then, because I just don't want to wake you up, or I don't want to bother you there.
But if you order a Cabot these days, you'll get a phone call from yours truly.
Right. Yes,
I am the follow-up call for Cabot now.
Yes. Caleb does all the follow-up calls for Cabot. So I think that will be definitely something to look at. A gentleman asked if there's an Instagram to be more informed. I think with the builders that I mentioned earlier.
Yeah, I saw someone else tag in Heirloom Precision and put their.
And then you can also go at Shawlin Performance, all one deal, and that's Rob Shawlin. Of course, again, always check out Alchemy Custom Weaponry. We don't build guns like that are Colts or anything like that, but we do build guns that look damn near better than Colts. I mean, how about a square guard?
Square guard is insanely hot.
Yeah, this gun with the ring hammer now. Yeah,
that's insane.
That's the heat right there.
Yeah, I saw when you showed that this morning. It was a great day. Great way to start the day. A killer gun.
Yeah, I'm very pumped about that. So yeah, I don't know if I've kept up with anything. I don't know if anyone has any other questions, but it's one of those things. We've I talk about alchemy a lot, of course. You've been public now, but let's just say it for posterity's sake. You work for Cabot now, so the sister company of Alchemy. Technically, we all work for Cabot. Alchemy obviously being under Cabot, but you actually work for
I work for that brand specifically. Yeah,
so for Cabot specifically.
Yeah, I'm licensed troubleshooting, so I'm as I like to call it. I'm working in a contract capacity, helping out with some sales and marketing fun, which is just a great thing to do. You guys have been great to me the last few years, so this is a really fun way to kind of get more involved with the team. So that's super rad. I see someone asking about square guards. You want to tell them square guard supremacy is true and real? And still available.
So square guards, I'm a big fan. Okay, not because I use it, but because it looks cool. Okay, although it kind of looks cool when you use it. I don't know, but anyways. Square guards, yes.
Tell me it's all about for the gloved finger. When you're wearing those heavy gloves, the 2 times a year it snows and you're stuck there. A square guard 1911 is your friend.
Sure, yeah. And let me tell you, so Alchemy does still do square guard 1911s. We only do them on the 5-inch government models. Hey, Tilly. We only do them on the 5-inch government models, okay? It is an option, $100 option, drop-down menu. We got you covered. As far as holsters are concerned, you call up Milt Sparks, tell them you got a square guard, especially at Alchemy. They'll get you squared away, because guess what? They make me a lot of holsters for square guards. So they know exactly what they're doing.
The dust has been blown off the pattern. It is back in action, baby.
Yeah.
Hell, I've got me a PPK rig right now. I am so excited about that.
Square guard there, square guard everywhere. Big fan of the square guard. I think for a late 70s, early 80s custom gun, it's kind of non-negotiable, as they might say. But
wearing a roped hat and a mustache like that, square guard just fits perfect.
Right, absolutely it does. So this guy's got a question for you. I'll follow up with the same question after. But I am interested because honestly, I don't know the answer to this question. What is Commando Bond's favorite revolver?
Oh, that is hard.
I never, I know you like revolvers, but I've never really heard you talk about revolvers.
Yeah. You know the one I want next. We were texting about it today. I am in desperate need of actually what I really want. I want what you've got, which is a model 1917, but for the true badass Indy vibes, I would love a hand ejector 2 with all the 9 yards, cutting down the barrel. It's got a ramped quick draw front sight on it. It's got the lanyard loop on the bottom of the butt. It's a pretty rad pistol.
Yes.
My favorite revolver, though, is behind me, actually. This is one of the guns I learned to shoot on when I was a kid. This is my model 19-3. It was my grandfather's. He gifted it to me. It's got old school Packmeyer grips on it. 357, and it's proper old school. We're talking the firing pin on the hammer, no lock. This is, I believe, a 1960s, 70s model, and it's got that gorgeous finish to it. So it's awesome, man. And to top it off, it also fits in the Roger Moore Live and Let Die screen accurate holster that he uses with his Model 29, which is nickel plated in that movie, or chrome plated. I'm sorry, this is nickel. So it's just a cool gun. I used to shoot dueling trees with my grandfather all the time with this guy. This and his Kimber 45s, actually, his old school Kimbers when they were cool. Pre-Obama Kimber, as I like to call it. So, yeah, is that my revolver, the one I'm dreaming about that you're whipping out at me, or is this your Fitz?
No. So the Fitz is still at my FFL. Long story about that, but it's a long story. But anyways, I do love my Fitz, but I have 3 guns, and I'm going to be honest with you. It's revolvers are something that I used to be anti-revolver. Okay?
Oh yeah.
Because I was so hindered on the 1911, and I thought, well, the 1911 makes the revolver not even a thing. Why would you have a revolver?
Well, you and I both grew up on the gun counter too, right? And where people were pushing women onto J-frames like there was no tomorrow, and it was so annoying. Like you learn to hate the gun just because of the environment you're in.
Exactly. And so I've recently had a renaissance with revolvers, as you know. I basically quadrupled my revolver collection.
It's impressive because it wasn't 0.
Yeah. I mean, I went from having like 1 revolver to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, like 11 or 12 revolvers.
Mm-hmm.
So anyways, I'm hot on them. I want more of them. I think that a real gunman has a revolver. That's super hot, by the way. That's very sexy.
Right. Beyond the X15, boy. Look at that. That's
a really cool rig. So my first kind of love in the revolver world was the Model 29. Mm-hmm. This is my Lou Horton Model 29-3. Cool. This is the gun I took my revolver class with, which people think is nuts. But I did take
crazy that you ran that
44 3-inch barrel revolver to the revolver class. I love this gun.
That shows people you stand on business.
Yes, it does. In fact, everyone next to me at the revolver class was not super thrilled with the fact that I had a 3-inch 44.
Well, tell the class that your socks were about triple the length of your shorts with that revolver as well.
Well, I got hot during the class, so I cut my jeans.
Yeah, you cut your damn jeans into booty shorts. So, Daisy Duke ain't got nothing on you.
The next revolver is one that I think you're partial to. Yes. This is the Smith & Wesson Model 1917. This particular example.
It's a beautiful example too.
This particular example is probably one of the nicest ones I've ever seen. It's a commercial variant, which, if you know me, I actually do tend to gravitate towards commercial variants of guns. I like the fit and finish. It's a little bit better. Me also not being a veteran or anything with the military, I like commercial guns because there's just something about them that speaks to me. But anyways, this was made in the 20s, and to me, a 45 ACP revolver is like it's the thing that I want. These are beautiful guns. Essentially, as you mentioned a little bit earlier, these are essentially second model hand ejectors. You never really hear, it's funny, you hear a lot about first model hand ejectors because that's triple lock. You hear a lot about third model hand ejectors because those are badass, Wolf and Clark 44s. You don't hear much about a second model hand ejector just because, this gun dominated during that era. And so everyone referred to this as the model 1917. And even after in the commercial space, this gun was referred to as a DA-45. So it never really got the name second model hand ejector. Just like how the Colt, now, what's interesting though, the Colt version, which of course, as you noted earlier, I have a Fitz version of that. And God, that gun.
When is Milt Sparks building a holster for that?
A holster, son, that goes in your pocket. It's interesting when you talk to Colt collectors, they are not quite real Colt collectors, aren't quite as fond of saying a Colt model 1917 like a Smith & Wesson guy might say Smith & Wesson model 1917. Colt guys like to say new service.
Yep.
Or they like to use the actual
the official
Colt.
police or stuff like that.
Sort of thing. So, I use 1917 pretty interchangeably for both of those guns. Yeah. And for any of those guns that use 45 ACP. The last revolver, and I just quickly want to get through it. This is probably, there's two revolvers I don't have. Obviously, it's a triple lock and a registered Magnum. Both of those guns are just like super, super grail guns. But this is my grail gun of the guns that I have. And that is a 1941 Smith & Wesson third model hand ejector 44. This to me is one of the sexiest revolvers that have ever been made.
Yeah.
And I'm waiting on the Smith & Wesson letter on this gun because there is a tiny possibility that this could even be a Wolf and Clark gun. If that's the case, holy shit. This is a 4-inch in frame, which of course is this is how I like a 4-inch fixed sight in frame. This is a pre-war gun. I don't know if the nickel is original. I do have plans that once the letter comes back, if this is not the original finish, I want to restore it.
Sure.
But add a little bit of engraving because I'll never sell this gun. This is one of those guns that's going to become
it's an heirloom for you.
An heirloom for the Duckworth family. So the third model hand ejector is to me one of the coolest revolvers of all time. So I know we've missed some stuff while I've been yapping there.
Those are great guns, man. I'm just happy we get to share them. That's the one thing I appreciate about doing this live via Instagram is that we can still do that.
Someone said Daisy Ducks.
Yeah,
that's hilarious.
So that needs to be patented. Think we can get that embroidered on the ass of all your short shorts?
I do it. EDC Bond asks, Eli, what's the oldest manufactured gun that you own? And Caleb, I'm going to pose this question to you first.
Yeah. The oldest one I have is actually upstairs on my mantle where God intends such guns to sit, and that is my great grandfather or great uncle. I never remember which side of the family or how it falls. His Colt Navy, his 1850s. I think it's a Colt Navy rebuild, like we talked about before, where it's in the original case. It's got a Colt marked cylinder. But the rest of the gun seems to be like an Italian or Spanish frame that was built around it, which was pretty common back in the day where folks would split guns up, refurbish them, and go on their merry way, or take broken guns and build new ones, that kind of thing. So I've got that original gun with the powder horn, with some old balls, and with the coolest part too is it's actually got the bullet press as well. So I've got the whole kit, and I'm very fond of it, and it's a family heirloom that I don't think my dad will ever forgive me because my grandmother gifted that to me on my 18th birthday. So good.
Yeah, well, that is really cool. For me, it's right over here, but it is a Winchester model 1894, 26-inch octagonal barrel with a crescent buttstock. and it was manufactured in 1896. So cool. It's a 30 WCF, which of course is 30-30. WCF just means Winchester centerfire. The reason they kind of went away from the WCF aspect of it is because Savage and Marlin did not want to put Winchester on their rifles.
Side of their guns, yeah.
You know, and I think that that's one of the fun aspects of that time period. You know, ACP stands for Automatic Colt Pistol. We talked about it with the 38 Colt, which is kind of the 38 Smith & Wesson, but they didn't want to put Smith & Wesson on the guns. You know, so to me, it is one of those things where that's a really unique thing to see stuff like that. Like the script is different on those guns. But anyways, I've got an 1896 manufactured Winchester 94.
That's
shoots
so cool.
Like a freaking laser beam, dude. 26-inch octagonal barrels, you know, slinging a 30 caliber round. You know, you can say obsolete all day long, but I just don't believe you. It's one of those things that I think if you know, if I ever got compelled to go out and do a little whitetail hunting, there she is right there. Why look for another deer rifle?
You shouldn't. I had that conversation with my dad the other day. You know, he was really keen on, and he bought himself a 6.5 Creedmoor. So, you know, I'm begging for forgiveness for him. Excuse me a second, it just glitched there for me. But, you know, all of that for him. And I told him, I said, we got to get you an old gun. You know, I really want to get him a pre-68 Winchester Model 70 someday, because it's just the right thing to do. That's what I want. I mean, I grew up, I've got dog-eared Carlos Hathcock books out the wazoo. So, you know, doing the proper Vietnam-era sniper build is definitely a high wish list item someday. But yeah, that lever gun's pretty badass.
364 Winchesters are really the heat. They're the heat for sure. Somebody 30-30 will never be obsolete. Damn, I don't think it ever will be either. Someone says
like 45 won't be.
No, yeah, 45's off. Well, 45's making a comeback.
Yeah. New is not always better.
Can we see that Swenson? Those grips are fantastic. Yeah, we can see the Swenson. Try not to have to get up. There we go.
Yeah, look at that.
So we've been talking a lot about this. In fact, I was dragged into a Megan Trainor concert with the gal, and you and I were texting the whole time about.
I swear, I choked when your gal posted those photos of the concert, and you're like not very far from the stage, and there's a freaking laser light show going on, and I'm thinking back to you telling me you're at a concert, and you're texting me every 20 seconds full articles about Swensons in combat, and I'm like,
big stuff.
Yeah. I was taking more time to respond to you cleaning my kitchen, and you're reading articles on American Rifleman about Swensons in combat at a concert. It was awesome.
Hey, listen, I'm gonna tell you right now. Okay, Megan Trainor, she's got a great big old ass, right? And that's great, but it isn't great enough to get me off the path of 1911. So getting right into it, this is the Swenson 1911. So if you're not familiar with Swenson's one of what we would call the I don't even know what you would actually call him. I just call him one of the greats. One of the past masters is what Bill Wilson refers to him as. Swenson was one of the first big names in a combat fighting 1911. Now, post-World War II, you saw a big movement for custom 1911s, but it wasn't for fighting 1911s. A lot of that was around what we call hardball, or, you know, like national match shooting, competition, bullseye, that sort of thing. Those guns are cool, but they're not great fighting guns. So Kings in California, and Swenson, obviously also in California, were one of the first two big names in the fighting 1911. And Swenson actually really rose to fame through early gun writing as well. But he had basically developed a steel frame commander. Now, why is that a big deal? You may not think it's a big deal because you see steel frame commanders all the time. What it was, though, you have to consider before 1970, there was no steel frame commander. You had aluminum frame commanders, lightweight frame commanders. Those came out in 1949, 1950. Originally in 9mm, and I'm going to tell you another little secret nobody tells you. The 45s had the same lightning cuts on the slide or inside the slide that the 9mm had to allow the 9mm, cartridge to be able to have enough energy to push back the slide and do a full cycle. Or technically, a commander is an abbreviated cycle,
Right.
But the 45s had that too, on top of being a lightweight gun. So let me tell you a little something. They kind of suck to shoot. So a lot of folks wanted the commander. Commanders were hot, right? Like, you wanted to have a commander. People didn't tote 5-inch guns like they do, today,
right,
in this same exact way. People still did, but not the same way we do now. And so what Swenson decided was to, well, hell, I'll cut some bitch down. So this is a Swenson Bobcat, a fairly rare gun in its own right, because once commanders came around, no one really sent their government model off to
be cut down when it was factory.
Yeah, to get cut down when you could just get a commander from the factory. But essentially, Armand Swenson would cut these guns down to about 4-inch barrel length. Or here's the deal about Armand: there was no real precise measurements, so somewhere
he cut where he cut.
4 and 4. He would recut the bushing lug. He would give you a full length guide rod. We're talking full length guide rods. This gun was built in 1969, and this is really what the ideal fighting concealed carry pistol was, back then. The interesting thing about this particular gun, as you know, and obviously I'm about to tell them, is this particular gun was ordered by a gentleman named Jim Wood, a guy who I'm very, very blessed to call friend now. And Jim was a airman in Vietnam, and he knew he was going to Vietnam in about 1970. So I think in 68 he actually sent off a 1966 government model, this gun right here, to Swenson, and asked him to build it. And I've got the original build sheet, and I've actually got some letters back and forth between Wood and Swenson talking about this is what, and it's so crazy because in Swenson's handwriting on this letter, it says these are, he sent him back an invoice sheet with stuff checked, and he goes, this is what I would carry, or this is what I would do if I was going to Vietnam. And Swenson always liked to prioritize servicemen and obviously law enforcement. So once Wood actually got a date, he was like, hey, I'm going to be shipping out, on this date, 1970. Armand got to work getting his gun done fairly quickly and got his gun delivered in 1969. And Jim was able to get some OPA from the Air Force to be able to break this gun in. And he claims the gun has never had an issue. Bobcats are sort of known for having issues, but he has claimed that this gun never had an issue. I've actually not had a chance to fire this gun, mainly because I want to get a new recoil spring, and you have to cut the recoil spring down to a certain length, and I just haven't done that yet. And the only difference this gun had from when he took it to Vietnam was, and I think this is just as cool, but these are Harrods stocks.
Yeah.
Which are fantastic. Still in business, by the way. Dude, you can get a set of Harrods stocks, which I think you really should for your gun. You can get a set of Harrods stocks for $50 freaking.
That's insane.
They're awesome, and they're just like this too. I've got a set on another gun, and they're just like that. I mean, just fantastic stocks. I think they're super sick. But the gun had Packmeyer grips, which also are super badass. And and just like with the Packmeyer Combat Special, they cut out the middle of Jim cut out the middle of the wraparound grips because he actually did have 30 LPI checkering from Swenson.
That's cool.
So talk about guns that are, we'll call it uncommon for the Vietnam conflict. As you and I were talking about Model 39s the other night, being in Vietnam, that's just another example of some really cool gunfighter guns that went overseas that you just don't hear about. It's not that cookie cutter. It's not, and of course for the most part it is. But you see these war movies and it's all cookie cutter small arms, right?
Yeah.
And the truth of the matter is, not all the time is that the case. So I would actually love to see a Vietnam movie where the main character, and they're going to dress him up, right? Dress him up with a hero gun. Give him a Swenson clone, In fact, there was a guy who was a pilot who carried a 5-inch Swenson, full chrome. And that's another thing, too. Swenson did fully chrome most of his guns. The fact this is a two-tone gun is a bit unique. And I was actually talking to Jason Burton, who's a master Swenson, historian. Mm-hmm. And he said, dude, Bobcats are rare enough. A two-tone Swenson's rare. A two-tone Bobcat's kind of the most rare of the rare.
How about one that was carried in an M3 shoulder holster in Vietnam?
Yes. So this is a pretty special gun. I would say it's probably the most expensive gun I own, to be honest. As far as like actual value of that, probably off the charts, to be honest.
It's insanely cool, man. And I love that gun so much. And I completely agree about those stocks. You and I have talked about it before. The next alchemy I want someday will be a commander, some capacity or another. And I don't have anything in, like, I think a hard chrome commander from you guys with those stocks on it would be an immaculate summer carry kind of gun to throw into the collection, and some Milt Sparks leather, just classic styling with a little bit of new celebration added in, just the right stuff.
Yeah, I mean, and I hate that the conversation has become very 1911 heavy.
Yeah, well, I'll transition off lightly, because I think one thing that the Swenson conversation does that I think while we're waiting to see if anything else comes through is it reiterates another thing that happened at the time that pulls into the world of Bond very well, and that's the ASP. That's another gun that was designed out of necessity for the Model 39 and really no guns in general at the time, filling the void of being a reasonable caliber firearm in a defensive combat size. You were either carrying a full frame pistol, or you were carrying a 5-shot wheel gun, or you were carrying a 32 automatic, which people were feeling outgunned at the time, which totally fair based on bullet and powder technology at the time. It just wasn't the round that it is now today, with everything like that happening. So same story as the Swenson. Guy cuts a significant portion out of the slide, deletes it back, deletes a huge portion of the grip, does all sorts of crazy modifications to the gun, purportedly over 220, which I don't know how semantic that is. I don't know if it's every stroke of his, just polishing the gun up or what.
Yeah, but sure.
At least 5 or 6 of them are patented, which is rad. And I've told you this before, I would love to someday do an ASP of my own on a PPK frame, because all of the patent drawings show a Walther PPK as the base gun. Could you imagine a gutter snipe sight with the finger groove, with the additional like the horn in the pocket on a PPK trigger guard, with the cutaway grips and the cutaway magazine on this little guy right here? It might look horrifying. It might look really cool. We'll just have to do it to find out.
And you make a good point. The ASP was really, in my opinion, the genesis of what we'll call the pocket rocket. Yeah. You look at the SIG 365 today, the ASP is where that motherfucker came from. Yeah.
Well, hell, they did an SAS edition, which just defines that. It's got that goofy sight system set up to it, which is a direct homage to the ASP. Like, the two are peas in a pod. It is a granddaddy situation. Hey, someone just ordered those grips, so kudos to you for calling it out.
Dude, Harrods is so slept on, man. Such a slept on brand. I love Harrods. But anyways, so the 9mm ASP, it's funny, Jason and I were actually talking about the ASP the other day. And it really was revolutionary. Oh, yeah. Obviously, it spurred on, I don't know if you know this, but Charlie Kelsey, the guy who, DeVille. So, the DeVille Model 39?
Absolutely.
Do you know why that gun even was a thing?
My understanding was he sent off a gun to be converted to an ASP, never got it back, and decided to do it himself. He said, I can do this, and I can probably do it better. So he just figured it out, which is the most American thing I've ever heard.
And I've never handled an ASP. Well, I've literally picked up Cameron's ASP in my hand, put it down. I handled, Hack's DeVille, which is actually, funny enough, the first Model 39 DeVille, because Charlie Kelsey couldn't afford to buy a Model 39. Hack had one, and the deal was that, hey, I'll do all the work to your gun, but you have to let me keep it for a year to be able to market the gun. And so, Hack let him do it. And sure as shit, on the side of his guns, because all DeVels like have like a number associated with it. Well, at least the Model 39s do. And his is 0001. You know, so that is super cool. A lot of history tying back, you know, to that sort of thing. The DeVille, obviously, aesthetically to me, is
you've got the fluted slide.
Yes.
You've got a bunch of other little details that I think do it. You've got the horn style grips instead of just doing the Lexan grips, which cracked over time and stuff like that. I also think that the DeVille improved upon some of the shooting idiosyncrasies that Paris Theodore had. He had this weird concept that a gun should be these are his words, as smooth as a bar of soap, to ensure, because his philosophy, the way he guessed about it, was that when you draw the gun, you're going to have a non-optimal grip because you're drawing quickly. And so when you do that finger groove pocket thing in the front that they recommended, the general concept was, you draw this gun, you're in a non-standard grip, you put the finger around the front here, and you do this weird looking down the arm thing. And when you shoot, the recoil, this locks the gun down, and then the recoil slips your hand into the most optimal shooting position, and you continue firing. That's a lot of scenario writing. You know? Yeah, like your meltdown. Just completely butter finished. And what do you need on the front of that thing in order to make it to where you can actually shoot it and not lose it? You actually need that Packmeyer grip wrapped around, right? Or else that gun's gone. And so that's one thing that, you know, if you watch the video that Jake and I did, the 1911 syndicate video on the guns of James Bond, we shoot an asp, and we both attempt to do the Paris Theodore shooting method, which doesn't make sense. The lack of texture across the whole gun really doesn't make sense. I love the gun. Don't get me wrong. If I had one, I would unironically carry it. Once you figure out how to shoot the thing, it's combat accurate. But you know, it's not what it's cracked up to be. But what it is like we said, it is the gun that defined the last 70 years of firearms innovation. It's the gun that forced the concealed carry market to exist. Without it, Smith & Wesson, in the same way that you just mentioned that, you know, Colt came out with Standard Commander and kind of put Swinson underground that way, Smith & Wesson did the exact same thing with the Asp and the DeVille. They saw so much market need for that. They made a reasonably priced variant of it, made a whole series of them, and you could buy them pretty cheap. And they basically did enough of it to where people were like, yeah, it's good enough for me in the 80s and 90s, and that put both of those brands just in the dust. So super, super fascinating stuff.
Well, and you know, it's one of those things where we don't see that kind of thing happen in the modern world.
No.
You don't see the production companies pushed by, you know, individual Smiths and that, you know, that sort of thing.
The closest thing that you'd have, I'd say, would be like innovative brands, whether you like the gun they're building on or not, like Flux Defense coming out with a Raider series to like make like a better version of a pistol carbine conversion kit. And now Sig Sauer is doing a direct model, like you can buy from distribution as a dealer a kit with them. So I mean, but stuff like that's far and few between. You don't see a gunsmith or a small brand most of the time developing something that forces a complete market shift.
Do you think, Caleb? Getting my little bit of late night show reporter on. Do you think we've reached a point? And I'm genuinely curious. I'm not setting you up for anything. I'm genuinely curious. Do you think we've reached a point of where is there left to go with handguns? I'm going to be
I think
and listen, 1911 in my opinion is the pinnacle of a fighting handgun. Just it's how it is. Good, bad, or ugly, if that's the right or wrong answer, I don't care.
Right.
But when we look at it objectively, where can you go with the handguns, with both large box companies and micro brands, kind of covering all spectrums of what you could possibly want for a handgun?
Right.
I don't know if there's really anywhere to go.
No, and I think the answer to the question is actually what you've said earlier on this live here. which was that the 45, the 1911, and classic handguns are having a resurgence. And the reason for that is people are returning to the roots of what built the industry, because new is just stagnating. Like, how many times can SIG come out with a new color version variant of the 365? It's not a new pistol, it's a new SKU. Those are two radically different things.
Right, absolutely.
And there's only, and that was even just a light burst in the market. They just double stacked and innovated a magazine style that innovated further a pistol that Walther designed in like 2004, right? I mean, the PPS was a thing. It was a single stack 9, and now it's a stagger stack style pistol or whatever. But like, at what point do you just accept the fact that? And I think to give you an analogy for a world that you're deeply invested in, like, how much more can be done in the automotive world? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
we've done too much.
Yeah. And what are we doing? We're reverting back to tradition. In the same way that the youth of the Catholic Church are going to the Latin Mass, the good man and the good Lord's rocking a 45 and shooting and driving a carbureted vehicle. Like, people are tired of new semantic nonsense, and they go back to the classics because the classics are where it's at. And I see your mustache covering that laugh there, but it's just a good analogy.
No.
It's got carburetors, I've got the Eucharist. What can I say?
No, it's an excellent analogy. I mean, we look at. I think you hit the nail on the head. We've pushed handguns specifically about as far as they can go, and now we're sitting here thinking, well, if we can't go any further, let's go back.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where, especially in handguns, now rifles, they haven't figured this out. Rifle makers and shooters still think there's meat on the bone with a cartridge for a rifle, and maybe there is, but I don't know.
It's exhausting to see the world that I felt like existed at the turn of the century re-existing today, where it's like every 3 minutes I'm hearing about a new 6.5 bespoke variant or 8 something or other to fill in a void. And I used to really keep up with all that because I worked a gun counter and I wanted to stay. I don't care about 6mm arc. I don't care about, like, all I know is I can get my 308 comfortably out to 300 yards, and then I can talk about a different cartridge if I'm extending past that. But most of the time, a better gun is one that's built pre-64, and it'll shoot a million times better, and it'll shoot a classic cartridge, and it'll do the job just fine. So why would I spend the time and effort doing that? And I don't know. I like staying up to date. I like being academic about this industry, but it's all just so exhausting sometimes. Like, it really, really gets that way when it's just like people racing to the bottom on stuff that, you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of knife people. Knife people are some of the worst people in this industry, because how many different types of steel can we talk about? How sharp of an edge can we talk about? Different types of blade locking and this and that, and people will fight you to the core on the superior blade. But I mean, like, how many of them are using it for anything else than cutting open a box of stuff? Riddle me that.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember when we were at SHOT Show. So for those that don't know, Alchemy and Cabot have a brand we import from Italy.
And I will say that,
and it's Sandrine.
My blind spot. I love Sandrine. Maybe because Alessandro is the funniest man you'll ever meet in the world.
Yeah. Alessandro is honestly a one of my favorite people. And listen, we're talking about someone that does not like Europeans, and I would probably fight a bull for that guy.
Yeah, for the people at the front of the chat who heard Eli talking about the damn Italians, this is an Italian that he would do anything for.
Well, it's funny because I say the damn Italians to Alessandro, and he usually says, something in Italian. I'm sure it's a slur. But anyways, I remember you had went to the bathroom because this was the first year where you were running the Sandrine booth. You had went to the bathroom, and I kind of stepped over to kind of, field, play both ends of the field there.
Mm-hmm.
And a guy walks up and he starts, blabbering on about, this angle of this and material this. And he goes, oh man, he says, what about your experience, with your Sandrine? I see you got a Torino carbon fiber, what do you think about this angle of this? And I said, brother, I'm going to tell you right now, I don't know what you're saying, but I do know this sumbitch opens a box like nobody's business. I said, listen, I can open mail like you ain't never seen with this knife. But as far as the angle to this, that, and the other, and its proximity to the tip of my penis, I don't know. I don't. It just doesn't make sense to me. The knife world doesn't. But those Sandrines do open up boxes pretty easily there. And
they seemed real nice with a Cabot 1911.
He seemed really upset that I wasn't,
super enthusiastic about that. Yeah.
Yeah, super enthusiastic about his knife stuff, but it's just not for me. And it's one of those things too. I kind of want to backtrack a little bit back to the gun aspect of it. When people hear you and I say, "Oh, we're not interested in 6.5 what the fuck," or we're not interested in this, that, and the other modern gun, SIG, this, that, SIGs, rose gold, tallow, who gives a damn? It's not that people want to equate that almost with anti-gunness.
Yeah,
it's not
or
that.
like lack of knowledge.
Yeah,
not that we don't know about them, we just don't care. There is a difference.
Yeah, I just don't give a damn. It's not that I don't, and here's the deal, right? If you like it, by all means, have terrible taste. I don't care, but
people still wear 9-inch board shorts.
Yes. Trust me, with the way a lot of people dress, I'm not surprised they like whatever the hell stupid cookie cutter thing SIG comes out with this year, It's just one of those things where we're just not into it. It's just like, you can wear your smartwatch. I ain't got no use for one,
Well, I don't think you should after what happened today in the news. I won't say the magic words so we don't get banned off the Instagram forever, but if technology teaches you anything, it's being too interconnected sometimes can be hazardous to your health. I'll just leave it at that.
Right. And listen, there ain't no technology in this.
No, just sheer American willpower.
And I'm getting maybe to an age, an age of 26.
Yeah. I'm around 30.
Where I just, the latest, greatest, this, that, technology, whatever the hell, doesn't really get it. I saw a thing where Jeep was considering, and I don't know how true it is, and I'm doubt, it's super cool, so I doubt Jeep's going to do it. They were considering reintroducing the short box Jeep, and this was going to be a super cool, short box. Which for what I do, I'd be super into that.
Yeah, I'd love another one of those.
It was going to have no technology in it. Like I think 2 speakers. The radio was looks like something out of 2005. Something no screen, no connectivity. Hell, it didn't even come with a roof. You'd have to buy the roof separately. Doors come off with. I think they even had crank windows, possibly. And I'm sitting here like, hell yeah. What?
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Crank window Jeep, best thing. And that was only an upgrade because I got tired of my soft top Jeep getting broken into, and then that one got stolen. So then I bought crank windows. Did they get busted out? Sure. But still super rad.
Well, and that's like, it's like when people come at me with my car, my 63 Galaxy not being, it's carbureted. It's not, a practical vehicle. I'm like, listen, dude, you get one shot at life. Why is practicality the thing you want to hang your hat on? Practical people don't get remembered.
Well, I have a couple of major rules for a carry handgun, right? And I think everything we've talked about today, you can get into the weeds about drawbacks on caliber or capacity or whatever. My rules are pretty simple. Quality manufacturer, shoot it often, you will carry it consistently, and it's a gun that you like. So it's a quality gun made by quality people that you're comfortable and often training with. It's pretty simple stuff. And as long as you meet the threshold of it's not just that it works, but it is a quality piece, because there's a difference between a tourist working 8 out of 30 times and a gun that is quality in its manufacture. So, defining that word correctly does do a lot of business.
Yeah, absolutely, dude. Well, listen, I think we're getting a
closing
little
in on a
stagnant.
lot of time here. We're getting pretty long-winded here, so I don't want to keep people too much longer. If they don't have any questions for us, we can kind of take a couple more if you like.
Well, and I think we're getting close. If we haven't exceeded the time we normally do for a Steel and Style.
Yeah, Steel and Style, guys. So I'll give it a little bit of a shill here as we close. The show is on, again, YouTube, and it is also on Spotify. We've got a couple episodes that are already listed there. This is what I hope to be a monthly episode that'll be live, where we can kind of do something like this to kind of be a little more engaged with you guys. I think it's a lot of fun to do this. Instagram willing, like we talked about, this will be loaded up for people to view later. But we would ask you to head over to the YouTube, head over to the Spotify, subscribe to both, or whichever is your preference in terms of engaging with the show. This is a weekly show from me and Eli talking about a lot of the things you heard here tonight. We're a little more structured when we do dedicated episodes because we're not just kind of bouncing around to what you guys are interested in. We've done a couple episodes now on the reasons why we didn't do the show earlier, right? My adventures in Germany, Eli's with Ken Hackthorne and all that. But there's going to be a dedicated schedule here where we're going to talk about clothing. We're going to talk about style inspiration. We've got some super cool guests lined up as well inside those spaces. If you don't follow his website, I cannot recommend him enough. I can't wait to get Nick on. Nick is from Vamp Style, which is one of the best style blogs on the internet, whether you're a Bond fan, Magnum fan. Hell, if you like the style in Jerry Seinfeld, he's got breakdowns from that television show on what's being worn, how to buy it, etc.
Which is ludicrous, by the way.
Yeah. The guy's a savant when it comes to that stuff. So he's going to be a really fun guest. We've got folks from inside the firearms world that you and I are both friends with that we're going to talk to on this because it's steel and it's style. So, we'd love to hear from you guys more on what you want, but that's the show. This is the budding infancy. So the more you engage now and the more you tell us what you like, the more you honestly are going to shape. And we just gave you a whole speech about how we're pretty stubborn bastards, but you might actually shape some of the things that we do.
Right. Yeah.
So that might be one of the only times you get to tell us what you like and we actually listen. So,
Usually that makes me want to do the exact opposite.
Yeah, damn the torpedo.
But no, I agree. To my knowledge, I think the Spotify is a little bit more reliable as far as we don't have to worry about things getting taken down.
Sure.
If you're really into podcasting, of course, you're not super worried about the visual aspect of things, so you can watch just audio only. So if of the two, if you had to pick one, and I'm a big fan of YouTube, I watch YouTube all the time, but if you had to pick one, I would say the Spotify route is the way to go for the most reliable source. So just check them both out, but Spotify is definitely one I'd make
on Spotify. I've been able to upload the last two at least. They give us the option to do a video podcast, so you guys can listen to it audio only, or you can watch it through Spotify. We've had our pilot episode got nuked on YouTube, as Eli referenced, and we're not sure if, when, or what is going to cause stuff like that, and so we are going to continue trying to grow that. We are definitely going to give you multiple avenues to enjoy the show through, so we don't lose it, and we don't lose these conversations, because this is a lot of fun for us. I'm sure you heard us talking about it. Eli and I were texting while he was at a Megan Trainor concert for like 3 hours consistently. We talk on the phone for hours every single day when he's in, recording these conversations and sharing them with you guys, giving you some insight into the things that we really care about. We hope you like it just as much as we do, because we're going to keep doing it either way. But, if you're here to listen, all the better.
Well, and with that, thank you, Caleb. I always appreciate our conversations. Thank you, everyone who submitted questions. I'm sorry if we didn't get to them. You should have known, though, we were going to probably be long-winded on questions, so I apologize. But listen, we had a great time. Please check us out on YouTube and Spotify. Of course, if you don't follow Commando Bond, you better. Damn it, it's something you should be doing. And of course, if you find yourself wanting to look at pictures of 1911s, my page is probably a pretty good one too. With that, thank y'all. We're gonna call it a night. I'm ready to get to bed. We'll see you next time.
See you later, lads. Cheers.